In today's project we're going to recreate one of my childhood toys using cheese. So yeah, I'll explain what this is for in a moment, but let me just tell you about the toy I'm going to try to recreate. When I was a child, my sister and I had a toy that looked a bit like this. So yeah, it was a little pewter bird on a pedestal, and when you turn the bird against the wooden pedestal, it would make a chirping sound as the metal chattered against the wood. Now, many of you will probably know that I'm describing an Audubon call. An Audubon call is a type of bird call made of wood and pewter, and it's just got an interference fit on the two parts so that when you twist them together, it makes a chattering sound that can be made to sound a bit like bird song. And people use it for attracting songbirds. This one was unusual in the sense that it was in the shape of a bird. All of the Audubon calls I've been able to find on the internet are kind of utilitarian in their shape, but this was the toy that we had as a child. Now, I think my sister still has this toy, but I would very much like one of my own. Now, I could just fight her for it, but I think she'd probably win. So I'm going to try and make my own today. I'm not going to try and create an exact replica of the one that we had, but I'm going to take inspiration from these little metal bird figurines, which are archaeological artifacts. I think this one's Byzantine, this one's Roman, but I'm going to try and take inspiration from a bunch of these different things and make my own little metal figurine to go on top of the wooden part that I'll craft. I like the head on this bird, but outstretched wings like that will make it difficult to turn by hand, so I'll probably go for wings that are folded, something like this. But with this, I like the head on this one, I like the tail on this one. So anyway, we'll go for something like a blend of these different things. So, what's the cheese about? Well, this cheese, Mini Babybel, is coated in wax. And this wax, I'm sure kids will probably already know this, this wax is quite mouldable. And once you've worked it a little bit in your hands, the warmth of your hands make it as workable as plasticine. And so we can make models out of this soft wax, and then we can use lost wax casting processes to turn that into metal. And that's what we're going to do today. So I need a little bit more wax than this, so I may have to eat another cheese, and we'll get started. So my tools today are going to be really simple. Just going to craft a variety of different little tools from these lolly sticks. Okay, that will do for now, and if I need any other shapes I can just make them as I go. Okay, so just to explain what's going on here, I'm just using my hands and some small wooden tools to form the shape of a small songbird out of pliable wax that I peeled off the outside of the Babybel cheese. The thing with this wax is the warmth of your hands will tend to make it more and more pliable, and you may actually find that it warms up to the point that it becomes a bit too soft to work. If that's a problem, I just tend to put it down and let it cool. If it's a big problem, you can put it in the fridge for a moment or two and it will harden right up. Okay, so the mould is ready to go. Now, normally with lost wax casting, we would fill that with plaster or clay, and then we would melt the wax out of it and cast metal into the void. But that only gives you one shot at casting, which might not be enough, because if there's a little bubble in it or something like that, the whole thing will be ruined. So I'm going to use 2 parts silicone. This is a 2-part silicone that's formulated for high temperatures, so it should be okay to cast pewter into it. It's designed for that. However, I don't know whether it's going to react with the wax. We just won't know until we've tried. I've sealed all the way around this mould with tape and hot glue. I think I've got it sealed properly, but I've put it on a tray just in case, because if that spills out, I don't want it all over the tablecloth. Right, part 1 of the silicone then. And then same again of the other part, which is significantly reluctant to pour. So now we just need to mix and mix until we've got a uniform colour. Trying not to mix in any air as we go. I haven't got any means of degassing this silicone. I haven't got a vacuum chamber, so I just got to hope that we don't get too much air in there. And if we get any little bubbles that adhere to the final casting, I may just have to work those off with a file at the end. Well, that is about as thoroughly mixed as I can go, I reckon. I'm just going to let that stand for a minute. Hopefully the bubbles will rise to the surface. Yep, so we're seeing bubbles rise, that's good. We're getting them out. Okay. Right, now, just check out where my bird is. Right, okay. And then we're going to try and pour this in a single thread from a height to lose the bubbles. So I might get in the way of the camera here. Okay, I will fill it right up to the top because the pressure of the silicone, just that extra bit of pressure, may help it to fill some small voids. So, not too much waste. Must have got that just about right. Now, just to help any air bubbles release, really, really carefully, I'm just going to go down into the corners and do this. Need to be ever so careful here because I don't want to destroy my wax figure that's in the middle. So I'm literally just going into the corners where I know there is no risk of hitting the bird. And that is as much agitation as I dare. Right, so now that's got to be left for a couple of hours to set, and hopefully we'll have something to show for it at the end. Okay, it's the next day and it's set solid. It's still a little bit clammy and sticky, but I found this silicone tends to do that. I do like to leave my pot as it is rather than cleaning everything up until it's set, because that way I can test whether the silicone has actually set properly without having to interfere with the mould. So that all looks good. I've got a new fresh blade in here, so we're just going to try to carefully remove this from the baseboard. Better get rid of that blade. And there's our wax figure still in there. Now, of course, I didn't need to use wax actually here. I could have used modelling clay. The main reason for using wax really with something like this is if you intend to melt that wax out of there. I don't intend to do that because I'm going to cut this mould open to get that out. And apparently the way to do that is to try to make a kind of zigzag cut down here so that it goes back together. That provides some register for the two halves to go back together. But anyway, yeah, it's looking really good. It's nice and solid. So let's get in there and cut this down. As I say, brand new sharp blade in the knife here. So we're just going to cut in a zigzag line as deep as we can down there. Not deep enough, so keep going. I'm going to have a little bit of trouble, I think, getting that bird's head out of there. So what I may try to do, it's a little bit too far to cut, but I might just try and cut down these sides as well. So I've got a mould that opens into 4 parts. So that's a bit of a mess, but because it's silicone, it will join back together nice and neatly. Now, I've got to get that wax out of there. If it doesn't come out in one piece, I will just put this in some really hot water and I'll get it out that way. Just going to check that there's no more traces of wax in there. I can't see anything. That's good. And just check also then that we've got the whole bird out. So let's have a look. So we've got head and body, tail, the little pedestal and the sprue. So that all looks good. Right, well, now it's time to go and do some metal casting. Got an old saucepan. I've got my pewter, my offcuts from my last pewter casting project. That was the cuttlebone casting. It's cold today, so this is going to take a little while to warm up. And I've got this, which is the leftover pewter that I didn't use last time. Okay. Okay, it looks like we're ready to go. So let's do the pour. Okay, I think that's it. And while that's still liquid, I'm just going to carefully tap the side here, which will hopefully get any little air bubbles out. And then we wait. And we will see as it cools that the top surface here goes concave. And that's why it's necessary to have this top piece here, because that will provide extra material to fill in from the thermal contraction. Okay, just going to pour some water over it now. Shall we have a look inside? Not bad. Not bad at all. That will do nicely. And the mould itself has sustained almost zero damage, so we can use this again. I'm not going to try it just now because it's still wet and the steam would be damaging and probably dangerous, but we can do another cast later. But to be honest, I'm quite happy with how this has come out. Okay, so after a little clean-up with files and abrasive, that's the casting, and I'm pretty happy with that. There is one little place there where it looks like the metal pulled in as it contracted. Not much we can do about that, but I think it just adds to the rustic charm of the thing. The detail of the feathers has all come out which is really all I could have asked for. But we're not finished yet. Now we need to cut that off and do some more work on this. So I drilled a small hole, starting with 2mm and then going up to 3.5mm, and I found that an M4 machine screw will just drive into the pewter metal without any need for tapping or anything like that. I then cut the head of the machine screw off because I need to chuck it in my drill so that I can turn the base of the bird round and concentric with the shaft of the screw. I just used small files and abrasives to grind away the metal pedestal underneath the bird until it was nearly round and concentric with the shaft. I cut a piece of silver birch timber, planed it to make it a little bit closer to round, and then mounted it in my drill-powered lathe and turned it into a small wooden plinth for the bird to sit on. Silver birch is quite an attractive timber actually, and this piece has been spalted, which means it's been attacked by fungus, which creates dark streaks inside the wood. Once I'd made the base, I just went up a few grits of abrasive to smooth it off, and then gave it a light coat of wax. After parting off, I drilled right the way through the base with a 5mm drill, and then using a 10mm drill I drilled into the top of the base just about halfway, and then I kind of worked the drill around at an angle to ream out the top of the hole because it's got to kind of fit the tapered metal base of the bird. And after that it was just a case of fitting and adjusting and then sawing off the remaining part of the wood. Alright, so the final part of the process, oops, wrong end, is going to be to fit a little nut on the end there. I've got a locking nut. Let's see if we can get that onto there. Right, might have to do this without the camera right in my face, so let's have a go now. Of course I'm not tightening this all the way up, it does need to be loose. And headphone users, I apologise in advance for this, but here's what it sounds like at the moment. So I hope that was interesting to watch. I'm actually pretty pleased with the result. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.